I'm here, we are filming, and I'm really excited to share with you guys what it's like to be a momfluencer.
A momfluencer, or as we say, a mumfluencer, a mum influencer.
In a world where social media stars become household names, she's part of an online community that some people know as momfluencers.
Mumfluencers post picture-perfect photos and videos of their kids to social media. They share cute and relatable anecdotes which attract thousands, sometimes millions of fans and followers.
Can you say mascara?
Masculine.
Yeah, good job.
And it is a job. Mumfluencing can be big business.
I think it's a great way to be able to be at home with your kids while also bringing in income for your family.
It's nice to know I now have Braveface Junior as a part of my arsenal to help support my kids. You can find Braveface at your local health stores and pharmacies, both in-store and online.
Frankie and I are off on our first father and son cruise to Fiji with P&O. Yes!
Oh, look at this!
We have been loving Orajel Sage 3 toothpaste for all of the kids.
Pushing products, brand deals, and partnerships to their followers. It's a lucrative industry that's only growing, with so many wanting in on the action.
But what's the ultimate cost? Kia ora, I'm Amanda Gillies, and on The Detail today, mumfluencing, monetising the mummy lifestyle.
Show me what you're working with.
Show me. I created Mom Talk. It's a group of Mormon moms making TikToks.
That, of course, is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and their show, released a couple of months ago, lifted the veil on, well, the secret lives of mumfluencing. So today we'll look at all sides of the increasingly popular lifestyle, not just the light, bright, cutie pie moments.
There's also a dark side to all of this.
This mumfluencer has just been charged with child abuse.
My children were the targets of attempted kidnap.
The momfluencer Katie Sorensen learning her sentence for falsely claiming a couple tried to kidnap her kids.
We're going to talk about an influencer that was making their child sick to gather money and fame and clout and attention from the internet.
There is a whole generation of kids that this is affecting, and we're just seeing those kids reach adulthood now and start to tell their stories.
So to get an insight into the mumfluencer life, the good, the bad and the ugly, I talked to popular Kiwi mumfluencer Maria Foy. How are you?
I am good. I'm a bit of a sweaty mess. I just went for a walk, so
oh, good
it's
lady.
a nice day, but it's hot out there.
She's the straight-up, straight-talking creator of Happy Mum, Happy Child and also Life of Maria.
Instagram. My Stalker Sunday video is now live on Facebook. www.facebook.com/happymumhappychild. Go and check it out. Quick.
She started posting about mum life and her kids nearly 10 years ago and has quite the following and influence. Her Instagram account alone has more than 80,000 followers and is littered with adorable videos of her two young kids.
You love it or you're laughing?
It was basically a way to document the activities that I did with my kids. At the time, I had a 6-month-old and an 18-month-old, and it was hectic. And I was trying to breastfeed and entertain a toddler, and I was doing these activities, and a friend suggested, why don't you start a website? Why don't you start a Facebook page? And yeah, that's what I started doing, just documenting the activities with my kids.
What are the best bits about it? I mean, how did it change your life for the better?
It helped me become more creative and get down on a level with my children that I struggle to do, because a lot of parents don't struggle with this, but I struggle with the playtime a lot, like getting in on the kids' stuff. But when it came to crafts and things like that, that was a lot of fun and it helped me a lot.
You reckon you became a better mum?
I don't know. I think I'll always doubt my motherhood status, but I think it made me strive to be a better mum. And yeah, definitely.
It's this sort of vulnerability and honesty that's appealed to her many followers, and she was just as upfront and honest with them a couple of months ago, informing them she was changing direction and pulling back on posts featuring her kids and focusing more on herself. It made national headlines.
Looks like so-called parent influencers may be starting to get a little bit more careful about putting their kids' pictures online. When I say parent influencers, you know what I'm talking about, right? These are the mums and dads who post pictures of their wee ones doing cute or wacky things online, and then in return they get paid for it in money or products.
That change is part of an international trend.
On platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, so-called momfluencers share parenting tips and candid moments raising their kiddos. It's part of a multi-billion-dollar online influencing industry, and given its focus on kids, raises questions about privacy and consent. Stephanie Tsai reports on a trend among some of those content creators to avoid showing their kids.
One of the big concerns that it's actually work for the children.
I talked to a young woman who has grown up on a YouTube channel. She first went viral when she was a toddler, and by the time she was in elementary school, her parents had quit their full-time jobs because YouTube was the family business. And she told me, there's nothing my parents can do now to take back the amount of work I had to put in. And that was so striking to me.
In the US, some states have changed the law to try to protect these kids.
Last year, Illinois passed a first-of-its-kind law requiring parents to set aside a portion of earnings from social media content that features their kids for their kids. This year, at least 7 other states have introduced similar legislation.
For Maria, privacy and safety concerns behind her decision.
It is a bit of a natural progression that it happened. And over the years, I've been really struggling with my identity as a mother, as a wife, as a human being. And a lot of that had to do with this progression from small child who needed me a lot to older child who doesn't need me as much. And, you know, I've run Happy Mum, Happy Child for 10 years this year. And I felt like it was the right time to step away from this space where I talked a lot about my children and my role as a parent, and moved on to a space where I still talked about parenting. Don't get me wrong, that's still a part of my life. But I focus more on me, like the things that make me me, because it's not just about being a parent anymore.
I also find we've got young teenage boys in our family bubble and they don't want to be on social media anymore. You know, that privacy comes in where they're like, hell no, keep me off, please. Did you get that at all from your kids?
My son is 10 and my daughter is 12, and they were very aware of what I did, but it's so hard to explain to kids sometimes what it means. Like their knowledge and their understanding was very limited, but I did my best, and I did my best to give them that information so they could consent. But, you know, earlier this year, my son said, I don't like, you know, we knew he didn't like us taking photos of him and posting them online. So we came to an agreement where, of course, he revoked consent. He said, I don't want to do that anymore. So I don't post photos of him online. My daughter doesn't mind so much, but it definitely feels funny for me to share stuff of them when their friends can see it. And, you know, you start worrying about the pressures that come with friendships and bullying and that sort of thing. I think it was just a joint decision between us that we would pull back.
It was the right timing. Have you had in your 10 years any of those sort of awful experiences with trolls or anything like that?
I've been fairly lucky. The trolls tend to stick to me, which is quite nice. Not nice, but
yeah,
at least
nice,
they don't go after my children. And that I've been grateful for. In the past, I've obviously seen other people who haven't fared so well. And I don't know why that is, but I like to think it's because I showed them in a respective way. I never showed them upset, naked, in positions that would maybe compromise or embarrass them. I always kept it quite respectful and tried to focus more on the parenting aspect to do with me, if that makes sense.
That does, because what are the risks of doing this? Because there must be a temptation, you know, which we find when the kids do something outrageous, you find it incredibly funny, but also protecting them at the same time.
I mean, the risks go from simple risks like knowing what school they go to and then their peers and teachers know who they are, to extreme risks, which are the predators online who do nefarious things that we don't really want to acknowledge, but are 100% a real thing that happen. I did my best to never show them in their school uniform. I don't show out the front of my house where I live because it's a very obvious area as to where I live, and people can figure it out. So I did my best whilst knowing that, yeah, these risks exist, not just within my community, but on the broader worldwide spectrum.
And so since this decision earlier this year, especially with your son, to pull back, what did you do? Have you deleted photos or videos, or do you just go from this moment now, things change?
It was a bit of both. Obviously, from this moment now, no more. But I also just made the decision to remove anything from the year prior that I had posted of him, just out of respect. He doesn't mind the stuff that I shared when he was younger. He's got a bit of a disconnect from that, which I understand. But if at any point in time he looks back on it, which we often do, the memories pop up on Facebook and we'll have a little laugh or a giggle. And if at any point in time he revokes consent by saying, I don't like that, I'd remove it. But yeah, when we made that decision together, I just removed the last year worth of stuff.
Oh, there are some very cute videos of when he is younger with gorgeous giggles. I want to know, though, Maria, what sort of money and sponsorship can you attract as a mumfluencer?
Oh, so many things. Absolutely, so many things. I mean, when my kids were little, I had products shoved at me, from socks that gripped your kids' feet to help them pull it on better, to squeezy pouches that you put yogurt in. Like, the market for mums and young children is huge. And as I've progressed through the parenting stage, you notice that there's obviously not as many opportunities for a mum of older children than there is for a mum of younger children.
What's the best payment you've ever had?
So I was talking about this with my husband. We've had some really cool things that have benefited him and I, but for us, it's been we got a trip to Australia one year with Netflix, and as a family, we got to go over and we had a lot of fun. It was only for 2 days, but we had some great memories together, and I think that's the sort of thing that's really important.
Oh, that's fantastic. Have you ever turned down a sort of a payment or a sponsorship because it didn't feel right for you or your family?
Absolutely, all the time. Sometimes, or mostly, the things that I turn down are things that I wouldn't use around the house, or things to do with, like credit cards and that sort of thing. That's something that I don't feel comfortable pushing. But yeah, absolutely, I turn things down all the time.
Can you make a living out of it in New Zealand? I know in the States they do, it's huge money, but in New Zealand, can you make a living out of it, or is it just more of a top-up for the family income?
It started out as a top-up, and then I absolutely made an income from it, and I made more than I made in my full-time job working in an office.
Seriously?
And that's changed now, obviously, but I absolutely did, yeah.
You're talking 6 figures, 5 figures? Where do you reckon we can go with it?
Easily 6. I wouldn't say I was making 6, but I definitely know people who make 6 easy.
Wow. And since you've made the change, does that mean income goes down, or can you still monetize what you're doing with the pivot that you've done?
Well, I can absolutely still monetize it. I've still got a large social media following, and I'm still talking about my journey with parenting and my mental health struggles. At this stage, I actually had to take a year off because of my mental health struggles. So I haven't been working for a year. So I'm slowly getting back into it, which is why I thought this relaunch and the pivot from being 100% parenting to being more about me as Maria was a great idea and good timing.
She's always been open with her followers about those mental health struggles.
Grab a cuppa. Let's sit down and have a chat about something, okay?
She's always real and raw. Nothing is sugar-coated.
I felt like I couldn't do anything, and I was lost. My mum and dad weren't around, and I started to get angry. And that's when my depression started to show. I started to get angry at my baby. I started to get angry at myself, my inability to know what I was doing. I was incredibly frustrated. I was incredibly lost. I was still looking at what I was doing, and I was incredibly stuck in this darkness.
You've been beautifully honest about your mum experience and about your own experience. Why did you decide to share that, and what sort of feedback have you had?
I decided to share it for 2 reasons. One, I've got a big mouth and I can't shut up. And I think that's just part of my personality. Yeah. But two, I was looking, and I've realized this through therapy, I was looking for connection. I really love talking to people. I love talking to them about parenting. I love talking to them about the way they live their lives and what they do as parents. It makes me feel reassured. And I just love everything about chatting about any aspect of parenting.
And the mental health side, because you talked about how you felt so alone and you didn't feel like you had it. Did you get incredible feedback? Were there a lot of other mums going, hell, that's me too?
Absolutely. I mean, over the years, I don't talk about this aspect a lot because I don't want to seem like I'm bragging, but I get a lot of feedback behind the scenes in my DMs, thanking me for talking about my struggles, because they've been in a really bad place, and just by me talking about it, it's helped them through. And it's a two-way street for sure. I talk about it and it makes me feel better. So
it works, because you look at some of these mumfluencers, or actually anything on social media, and everything looks incredible. It's the perfect life. It's carefully curated. I want to know, as a mumfluencer, how much sort of time can be spent trying to get that perfect post to put it out there to, create the perfect life?
Oh, I mean, it varies on how I'm feeling during the day, but I certainly wouldn't make out like I'm having a perfect life. Like I wouldn't tidy my pantry if it's in the background to make it look pretty. I live I'd like to think I live a very humble life. It might not look so now because we've done a lot of renovations to our house, but I've spent a lot of time with, plain jib with no paint on the walls, and there's no escaping that. So I like to think that's one of the things that people liked about me, was that I didn't put that much effort in. I picked up my phone, I took a photo, and I posted it. And that was it. It was very straightforward.
And very real. I did notice that, Jib, and I thought it was great. What about other mumfluencers? Is there a sort of a fake life, false economy being told and sold, do you think?
When moms are scrolling Instagram at 2 a.m., they are being sold a completely unrealistic version of motherhood and a lot of very expensive mom products.
Absolutely. I think I'm guilty for it as well. I want to look at that perfect life. It makes me feel a little bit better with my messy house sometimes. But for some people, that's their life, and that is real life. It's not fake. And I think, there are some people who fake it, but then there are the realistically perfect people out there. Well, not perfect, that's not the right word, but they just are very organised. And that's not me, but it is nice to follow some people like that sometimes.
Get some inspiration. The Lenso, and particularly this is overseas, when you talked about fake things. We had a mum who she said that she falsely reported that her kids had been kidnapped. She was a mumfluencer. She did it to get attention.
Some people will do anything when it comes to achieving social media fame, even if it means hurting others along the way. And sometimes the people they hurt are none other than their own children. We'll dive into the insane world of influencer parents and how each parent went too far for fame.
She is a 16-year-old who is being basically exploited by her mum. Her mum is basically trying to live through her.
These kids were pulled from school so they could act 24/7. The parent has a lot of power.
My children were the targets of attempted kidnap.
31-year-old self-described mom influencer Katie Sorensen is now facing up to 6 months in jail after this social media post that police say was a lie.
I want to share that story with you in an effort to raise awareness as to what signs to look for.
What do you make of that sort of extreme that some of these mumfluencers are going to?
I mean, this is a big conversation. I've just seen something very similar, and I think it ended up being Munchausen's by proxy for attention online.
Queensland Police are taking action to protect the one-year-old daughter of an Australian social media influencer, following claims the mother drugged her daughter in order to fake her illness before setting up a GoFundMe page to raise money for her treatment.
And it makes me feel sick because I know there's more to it than just wanting followers. There must be some sort of mental health issue going on in the background. But it's a real issue, a real problem. And I don't know what you can do about that other than just be aware of what you're watching and who you're following.
Ruby Frankie, a parenting advice vlogger, started sharing her life as a Mormon mother of 6 children on YouTube in 2015 from her home in Utah.
This time last year, American Mumfluencer Ruby Franke pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse and was sentenced this February to up to 30 years in prison. She had vlogged the abuse of her children on the now deleted 8 Passengers YouTube channel.
She began to receive complaints from viewers about the way she treated her kids.
She's just going to need to be hungry. Hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
And my kids are literally starving. But I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done.
All right, moments ago, a former YouTube star pleaded guilty to felony child abuse charges. Utah mother Ruby Franke, who once gave parenting advice to millions of people, was arrested after police say her malnourished son escaped their home and ran to a neighbor for help.
What sort of impact? That was high profile and horrendous.
Yeah.
What sort of impact has that had on sort of mumfluencers and your growing industry? Because it is growing.
I don't know I really actually don't know what the vibe would be out there in the mumfluencer community, to be honest. There are a lot of people who are willing to just do whatever it takes to get the follow and to get some money. And yeah, it's not my vibe and it's not the way I would do things. And I look upon that kind of thing and it makes me feel sad. But yeah, I don't know if I could speak for the community, you know what I mean?
But she does have some simple advice for Kiwi mums thinking about becoming mumfluencers.
Don't set out to monetize it. Set out to have some fun. Write a blog, connect with people, make it about something that is change the goal from being money related. And you never know what will happen. I certainly didn't start out thinking I was going to make money and it was never on my radar. And I still to this day pinch myself whenever I get any kind of sponsored content. And I think as long as you're in it for the right reasons, you know, the vibe that anything can happen.
Best part about being a mumfluencer and the worst part about being a mumfluencer?
I mean, the best part, which I've already talked about, is the community, is the people who I get to talk to every day and the friendships I've formed and just being able to chat about my experiences and helping other people unintentionally, you know. And the worst part, I think we can all agree on this one, are the trolls online. I work very hard to ignore them, but they're still always there. So that's okay.
So does she miss the good feedback, the thrill of positive comments from fans and followers about her kids now that they no longer feature so much?
Absolutely. I want to share my children's successes. All I love to do is have that, and any parent would. I think our children are our greatest achievements, and sharing them is so cool, and hearing back from people. But, you know, I think at this stage, especially when I have a large following, I owe them to keep certain things private, especially like my daughter just got accepted into a high school and I just wanted to shout it to everybody, but I had to keep it private. So it was hard.
That's when you got to be cool, mum. But she says she's not always cool mum because while she has dominated the mumfluencer space for a decade in New Zealand, she still sometimes feels like the new kid on the block.
Navigating this online space, just like anything in parenting, is always hit and miss, and you don't know if you're making the right decision with what you do, especially when it comes to sharing images of your children online. I think as long as we're respectful, there is a way to do it. Otherwise, just keep your kids offline. That's the easiest way to do it.
That's all for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. Thank you to Maria Foy. This episode was produced by Gwen McClure and engineered by Phil Benj. I'm Amanda Gillies. Matua.